So back to the example I was showing you before, you can enter the starting time of 9, the elapsed number of hours 5, and move the clock forward to show that 9 plus 5 mod 12 would be 2. You can change the size of the clock and do different times, starting times, and elapsed number of hours. So I really thought this was a great applet. The only thing you might want to mention to your students is that, well, normally I feel like when we work with like mod 13, you would have 0 through 12, not 1 through 13. So discussing with your students the fact that 0 and 13 are congruent mod um, 13, I think would be good. Okay. Some other examples I thought would be great to bring into the classroom are the Caesar cipher, which involves basically just shifting the alphabet a certain number of positions. So like, for example, if you're going to shift it to A would become C, C would become E, and so on. And Illuminations has a great activity. Based on the Caesar cipher. Um, it talks about basically introducing the lesson, giving the students encoded message, and have them trying to crack the code, which gets into frequency analysis, which is basically like how often does each letter typically occur um, in a given text. And I'm going to talk about that a little more in a second. Uh, it has them make an actual Caesar shifter and talks a little bit about the history of the Caesar cipher. And I really think this is a good activity that brings it down a little more to, I feel, the students' level. I think the RSA um, algorithm could be a little over some of their heads. The Vigenère cipher is it's actually a pretty strong method of encryption, which it involves a keyword, and then it's almost like combining multiple Caesar ciphers into one. And so it has an activity for that, and I always like the NCTM illumination lessons anyways. So I thought that was a good resource for you. And then the Shodor Interactive website has a whole lesson on um, the Caesar cipher and discussion questions and multiple activities to do. So either any of these would be good. I also just thought basically you could have students write a function like 2n plus 3 to encode a message, and then the inverse function would be used to decode it. And then a composite function, if you wanted to encode the message twice, you would do, 2n plus 3, and then take that number and do 2n plus 3 again. So essentially, you're using a composite function to encode the message. And so just when you're doing a unit on functions, I think that would be a good additional extension you could have the students do. Frequency analysis is, I feel like, interesting for students. You could relate it to Wheel of Fortune. But basically, I thought all the students could pick a newspaper article or an excerpt from a book or something on the internet and do a frequency analysis. Basically, they would make a table. How often do each of the letters occur? They could compare tables with one another. Why is A your most frequent letter when E is my most frequent? Um, and then how can a frequency table be used to decipher a message? lastly, within your own math class, or you could talk to the government teacher and work with them to have the students debate basically the right to privacy versus, you know, the ability of the government and the police to provide safety. In the 1980s, Philip Zimmermann uh, developed an encryption software called PGP, which stood for Pretty Good Privacy. And it turns out that this software was included by the US government in its definition of munitions. So he was accused of being an arms dealer. And then, I mean, in 1996, they ended up dropping the case. But I think this brings up the point about our right to privacy versus, you know, the government's ability to catch terrorists and organized crime, solve organized crime, and catch criminals. So, with the NSA leaks that happened recently and kind of finding out what's been going on with that, I just think this could be a really interesting debate between the students. So that is my works cited page. The code book here and then the book of codes were really great resources, and the rest were just articles that I found online. Oh, and then this NCTM, the mathematics of information processing in the internet. Although I didn't really use anything from there, it was a good article to read about why we should be incorporating this stuff in our classroom. So that's all I have, and I will be here if you have any questions. Thank you.